So John the Baptist was an Essene, right? Wait, what are the Essenes? Welcome to The Snipe Life, where we look at creativity through the lens of Christianity. And we've been walking through all of the episodes from Season 1 of The Chosen, and today is no different. We're going to be looking at Episode 5, and more specifically, we'll be talking about John the Baptist. But first, I want to thank our sponsors for this video, you guys. Our awesome patrons and channel supporters. If you guys do want to help out our ministry and help us to grow, then you can do that by joining our Patreon and getting stuff even sent to you in the mail, or you can join our channel members and get access to emotes and fun stuff like that. In fact, one of our amazing supporters just reached out recently, and he bought us this lamp right here. So thank you very much, John, for that, and we appreciate everything that you guys are doing for us. It really helps our ministry to reach more and more people, and that's our goal, to reach as many people as possible to explain Christ, and to help them have an understanding of what Christianity is, and what Christian creativity should be. Alright, so specifically today we're going to be talking about John the Baptist and his scenes with Nicodemus in episodes 4 and 5. Now we get a little sneak peek at the end of episode 4, but it goes pretty deep in episode 5 into who John was and kind of what his purpose was as well. But I wanted to look back and see kind of what people think of him. What are the traditional thoughts around him? And who was John the Baptist? Now, many people believe that John the Baptist was an Essene. And we don't know this for sure because the Essenes aren't even mentioned in the New Testament. The only reason why we even know that they existed is from historical documents outside of Scripture. But we do see enough evidence to see that this group existed. Now, from what we understand, you can think of them almost as a monastic group that lived out in the desert of Judea. Places like Qumran or En-Gedi or near the Dead Sea. This was an area where they were thought to have lived and to do their studies of the Torah. Now beyond this, we believe that they were celibate, a group of men only that would just be there to study, pray, and get closer with God. They also believed certain things which were very interesting for the time, including that they believed that slavery was unjust and just plain wrong. One of their main goals was to prepare themselves for when the Messiah came, to be ready for that moment. So we can immediately see some of the similarities between John the Baptist and the Essenes. And we're going to get into some more of that. But first, let's watch this first Essene.
You are supposed to be the powerful one. Yet you are more frightened here than I am.
Are you the one they call John the Baptizer?
Yes?
I have questions for you about miracles.
Miracles?
Yes, John. Signs and wonders.
From who?
You.
Are you adding those to my list of infractions? Only a Pharisee. You would have labeled Moses a lunatic for talking to a shrub.
Do you consider yourself to be like Moses? Tell me about your ministry.
Do you remember when Caesar traveled through Judea?
Yes.
He sent all these men to clear logs and debris for the coming king. Make straight the way for the king, they'd shout. Prepare the way.
The roads in Jerusalem do not have the same problem, but I remember the visit.
I had to move. Romans aren't kind to the homeless. Lost all my possessions.
Many in Jerusalem were frightened as well.
Oh, they were lucky to have you to comfort them. For a price, of course.
Should we be clearing the road for you, John? Is that the point of this story?
I don't like your frock. The cost of the vestments alone could feed 3 children in Nazareth for a month.
Do you hail from Nazareth?
And Jericho, and Bethlehem, Jaffa, Hebron.
I see. Well, you have a new home now. Whatever your mission was, I hope you completed it.
Thought you were here to ask about miracles.
But first, I wanted to tell you of a miracle that I've seen, but cannot comprehend.
And then to make accusations.
This is pointless. Clearly, you are not a frothing madman, but every bit as unreasonable.
You imprison me, and accuse me of being ill-tempered?
I am
about it?
not your captor. Do you not understand? This is a Roman cell. I came here to speak to the warden on your behalf.
On my behalf. Why are you really here, old man?
The official reason? You are a Jewish citizen. If you have broken Jewish law, it sets a dangerous precedent to allow Rome to adjudicate.
And the real reason?
The truth? I am far from home. I am looking in places I would never go because I am searching for an explanation for something I cannot unsee.
No one else knows you're here. Tell me from the beginning.
So Nicodemus has sought out John the Baptist in this jail cell in order to talk to him about everything that's been going on. Remember, Shmuel is the one that went behind Nicodemus's back to get him arrested in the first place. Now, Nicodemus is extremely curious. He's been wondering about John the Baptist for a while, especially after hearing everything that's happened with Mary and her redemption. He's extremely confused as to who is doing this and how. And are they the Messiah? I think these thoughts are starting to creep into Nicodemus's head as he's trying to figure out this whole situation, trying to figure out where all the puzzle pieces fit. Now, even from the very first moment of this conversation, Nicodemus is basically saying that John the Baptist is the Messiah, or he's trying to feel that out. But John the Baptist pretty quickly, shuts it down from the way that he's talking to him. Nicodemus can tell that he's not the Messiah. And then John quickly tries to explain who he is, but I don't think Nicodemus fully understands this at this time. He brings up this story of Caesar coming to Judea, and how they had to clear all of these paths so that obviously the king could come through. And this is just like John, right? John is making a way. He's making a way for Jesus, the Messiah, to come through, the king. Again, making a great allusion towards Matthew 3:3, which confirms that John the Baptist is the one that is being talked about by the prophet Isaiah. So let's talk about who John is and how he grew up, which is kind of interesting, but we don't have much information on it. We see in Luke 1:80 that John kept on growing and he became stronger in spirit and in strength, but that he grew up in the desert. Kind of sounds like the Essenes, does it not? And then we also see how John kind of held himself, how he looked from day to day. We see this in Matthew 3:4. Now John himself had a garment of camel's hair, and he had a leather belt around his waist, and his diet was basically locusts and honey. Now I've had some people try to tell me that the word locusts actually means something else in the Greek, but the word is akris, and that word essentially means locust. So it seems like John did have a diet of locusts and honey, as we would understand it today. Again, reaffirming that he grew up in the desert. Now I want to shift to the storytelling of Nicodemus here. First of all, let's talk about just the creativity in general. I love this scene, the way that it's lit, how it feels so dark and mysterious, and how John is kind of giving these small secrets piece by piece. But Nicodemus here is really an interesting character development moment, because he's going through this whole thing, and we know where it's going to end, right? If we read the Bible, we know we're going to get to John 3:16, where Jesus is having this conversation with Nicodemus. But here, we're kind of seeing how he got there in the first place. Now, I want to restate this one more time, since I haven't talked about it for a while. But The Chosen is not Scripture. Remember, just as if I were to paint a picture of Jesus, it wouldn't be the real Jesus. And it would just be my approximation, a possibility of what I believe Jesus to look like. And so The Chosen is doing the same thing here. This is not a recreation of Scripture for you to study. This is just something to enjoy and have entertainment from. And so think about it that way as we're watching. Don't be too uptight about how things don't match perfectly with Scripture, but be glad when there are moments that do. But I do think it's really cool how they're setting up this meeting with Jesus for Nicodemus. Because if you think about it, Nicodemus comes to Jesus. But how would he have gotten there in the first place? What would have brought him to a place of intrigue? So much so that he would want to meet this Jesus guy. I think all the steps he's taken along the way, it's just a really cool way to bring him to the feet of Jesus. All right, let's continue on to the second scene.
Multiple demons.
I saw it myself. They jeered at me from inside her mouth. Nothing could be done for her short of a miracle.
And she won't say who restored her.
He did not reveal his name to her. What? What?
It has begun.
What has?
If he's healing in secret now, the public signs cannot be far off.
Public signs? What? You know him?
You can say that.
What's his name?
Who has ascended into heaven and come back
I
down?
asked his name.
Who has gathered the wind in his fist?
Don't quote Solomon to me, you wild mongrel.
Who has wrapped up the waters in a garment? Finish.
No, you answer me first.
Teacher of Israel. Finish the oracle of Agur, son of Jakeh. Who has established all the ends of the earth?
What is his name, and what is the name of his son?
Surely you know.
You are careless with Torah. God does not have a son except Israel. Israel is his only son. All of us.
Suit yourself.
You know, they'll put a man to death for blasphemy like that.
Who will? You? It'd be a terrible precedent for Rome to adjudicate.
I should never have come here.
All your life you've been asleep. Make straight the way for the king. He is here to awaken the earth. But some will not want to waken. They're in love with the dark. I wonder which one you'll be.
Now, if this man is anything like you believe, or if he exists at all, you should leave this region. Your presence alone puts him in danger.
If you think he needs my help, you've heard nothing.
So at this point, we jump a little bit further in the conversation with Nicodemus and John the Baptist. They've obviously been talking for a little while as Nicodemus is telling him about everything that's happened with Mary Magdalene and so forth. And John the Baptist immediately gets extremely excited. Remember, he knows Jesus. And let's think about the timeline here too. John the Baptist has already baptized Jesus by this point, and Jesus has already gone on his 40 days of the wilderness journey before he had asked all of his disciples to follow him. And so in this time frame, right, John the Baptist has been waiting for Jesus to do something amazing, waiting for him to start these miracles, waiting for him to start the public journey of him being the Messiah. And of course, John knows who this is. But in order for Nicodemus to understand, John tries to approach him in a way that Nicodemus would be familiar with, Scripture. So John the Baptist quotes to him a verse from Proverbs 30, a word from Agur, the son of Jakeh. And as John quotes this scripture, he's asking Nicodemus, begging him to finish it, because he wants Nicodemus to understand that this is the Messiah, that he has come. Because this scripture from John's perspective is a messianic prophecy. But you can see that Nicodemus here has his own translation, his own interpretation of what this verse means. When it says the son, it's not talking about the Son of God in Nicodemus's perspective, but Israel itself, because God only has one son, and that would be Israel. And God doesn't have a son, right? And again, this brings us back to our John 1 conversation that we've been having on this channel. If you guys haven't been catching these, we've been doing live Bible studies through the Gospel of John, and it's been an amazing series so far. Some really cool insights that I had never thought of before. And so even this brings us back to that fact that Jesus was there at the beginning, and he created everything, all the ends of the earth. To try and get Nicodemus to understand this is going to be a tall task. He's going to need to see some proof. He's going to need to understand a little bit more, because he's learned his whole life, right, from his rabbi and the rabbi before him, that that's not how this verse reads. And that's not the interpretation that was given. And at the end of this conversation, he's really challenging Nicodemus. He's saying to him that the Messiah is going to come to awaken the people, to give them a better understanding of what's going on, but that some people who are in love with the darkness will choose to stay asleep. And Nicodemus, who of course does not associate himself with the darkness, is being asked, do you love the darkness? Are you going to stay asleep? Or are you going to see this Messiah for who he actually is and to follow him? And you can see here just a continued conversation that we've had about the Jews all along. They have this misunderstanding about who the Messiah is going to be. They have this misunderstanding of what the Messiah is supposed to do. And Nicodemus here has those same presuppositions, thinking that the Messiah is going to be something that he's not. And John even says, if you think I need to protect him, if you think I'm the one that needs to take care of him, then you haven't heard anything. You're completely wrong about who this Messiah is going to be. We'll be talking a lot more about John the Baptist in the future. Hopefully we'll be doing a whole deep dive about him on the channel. So if you haven't subscribed, please do, or share this with a friend. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and you could really help us out. So I hope you like this video, and thanks for being part of our community. And a special thanks to our Patreon members and our channel members. And as always, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.